Hi Pisces, this is your December 2017 horoscope with Milada from Astrolada.com. And I'm shooting from Hawaii. I guess so Pisces want to be here. Can't show you the ocean because it's too noisy outside. There's too much wind. But thank you for joining me. And now let's conclude and see how this year is ending, because this will be also the end of a huge cycle in your life, Pisces, because Saturn will be moving out of your 10th house and entering your 11th house, much more supportive and easy place for Saturn rather than the 10th house. And we'll be seeing that in December, and we'll speak not only about December, but how Saturn in Capricorn will affect you for the next 2.5 years. So you can come back to this video for the next, 2.5 years to know how to proceed, what's the best strategy for you if you want to not encounter blockages and difficulties, because wherever Saturn goes, this is where things slow down. There are restrictions, there are blockages, there are the needs to grow up, to mature, to learn hard lessons, hard-earned lessons. So I will be your guide through that journey. And once you're prepared, Saturn will never surprise us. Where Saturn goes, these are things that we've been expecting to, and they've been in the making for a long time. And almost like it's a matter of time, as they say, when Saturn, for something to happen. And when Saturn enters the house, whatever was a matter of time now happens. And specifically, while Saturn was in your 10th house for the past 2.5 years, that's more challenging place, because it's about a lot of duties, a lot of responsibilities, especially connected to career, and maybe some authority figure that was restrictive, that was putting pressure on you. Might have been from a boss, might have been from your own authority figures, might have been, some older or more experienced teacher type of figure, pressure on you. But even if it's not an external figure, it might have, or institution of some sort, the 10th house institutions, it might have felt like a time of heavy responsibilities, a time where peak duties. And for some of you, it might have been a time where you achieved positions of a lot of authority, but they were definitely accompanied in the past 2.5 years at some time with more responsibility. If you are given more authority, it was definitely a position of higher, say promotion of some sort. It definitely would have come due to your experience from the past, due to your hard work, and with much extra responsibilities. And often people, during when Saturn is in the 10th house, tend to be aware of, time and their priorities. They have to change their priorities in regards to their career and their goals. And if you were not in the right career, often Saturn in the 10th house can remove a career from you and make you find another one, because Saturn is about prioritizing, finding the right vocation for yourself, basically. And if you're in the right vocation, Saturn maybe made you restructure it, work hard on it, change some of its fundamentals, and having to work extra long hours, for example, as well. But Saturn is coming out in December towards the end from your 10th house. And Mercury is in your 10th house in December, retrograde, which means that in December you'll be looking over and kind of making a summary of the last 2.5 years, what you learned. Maybe some things connected to your vocation, career, and social status will come back, not to haunt you, but to get closure. Maybe some projects, career projects can come that require a lot of your efforts or a lot of your skills put into to complete some renegotiations in regards to your career. Or maybe an old position that you applied for a job can come back in December, something like that, because Mercury retrograde is about things from the past coming back in regards to your career and in regards to your goals in some sort, to be re-examined, reinitiated, changed in some way, and completed, concluded, ended. And also it can mean just on an internal level, if nothing outside is happening, that you're just revising what happened psychologically and drawing your conclusions, seeing it from another side. Why did you quit this job, or why did you do this? Maybe you've been working very hard on some project for the past year or two, and now you're completing it, putting the final touches, editing it, and you're revising it, looking over it, how it became, or maybe you're revising a position or a job position of some sort, or your social status, how your social status changed in some big way, because Saturn restructures the 10th house, has been restructuring it, the 10th house about social status, but Saturn makes difficult aspect to Pisces, has been making for the past 2.5 years. So this came a bit forcefully, this came a bit painfully. There was delays and slowing down also of career progress, and it might have been very much slower than you'd have wanted, because Saturn delays everything, you know, and because of the difficult aspect it does to Pisces, it might have undermined your sense of, you know, achievement, or it might have made you work very hard for it. These are the qualities of Saturn. So now we kind of have completion of this in December. It's wrapping it up with Mercury. Endings of karmas with bosses, with institutions, endings of certain responsibilities and duties that you have towards older people, towards institutions, towards organization, towards bosses, towards parental figure of some sort, completing an ending of responsibilities and duties or relationship with such people, or the difficult situations with such people escalating and ending finally, coming to a conclusion. Or difficult situations related to your career, to your work, to your goals, to your career goals or projects, also kind of wrapping up in December and ending. So that's the good news for you. And there is even better news. Saturn is entering your 11th house, from where for the next 2.5 years it will be making a supportive aspects to 11th house, is the house that Saturn thrives in, and it's in its own sign, Capricorn. So it will manifest the affairs of that house. Yes, Saturn always makes you work harder for whatever it's transiting, but when it's in its own sign, it allows you to manifest that house. Now let's see what you can expect starting from the end of December for the next 2.5 years. See that your friendships, because 11th house is our social connections, friendships, the people that we socially, you know, surround ourselves with, that they lessen, they become less, but that only the very loyal ones stay, or the ones that are useful and practical for you in some way, ones that support your long-term goals, socio-economic goals of some sort. Friendships that are based just on frivolity, just on fun, or just on, you know, that don't have substance in them, will be re-examined, re-evaluated, and either changed or removed from your life. I just went through that transit, even though Saturn wasn't in Capricorn. Saturn in Capricorn acts much more decidedly, but so many people left my life, and that's, you don't feel bad about it. Actually, you're like, you feel it was time, you know, I needed a different social environment. For me, it was because I relocated from one place to another continent. So all my friends were left, you know, there. So Saturn puts restrictions or endings or reevaluations of friendships, and it can do it sometimes more in a disappointing way, where you kind of, reality hits you and you're like, oh, this friend, you know, they've never been there for me, and I no longer need them. So, and you put boundaries. Saturn is about building walls and putting boundaries about those friendships. So you're kind of like, I'm not going to allow those people to take advantage of me anymore. I'm going to put a wall. I'm going to, you know, I'm not going to allow to be manipulated, or for people to walk over me, especially people in your environment, like friends, and, you know, it's not so much family members. But at the same time, it's not necessary that it happens in such a disappointing and harsh ways. Or maybe you are the one who was not responsible to your friends, who was not accountable in your friendships. You know, don't always blame it on others. Saturn, whatever it transits through, shows you the results of your actions from before. It's only been in the making for a long time, and you see the results now. If you have not been a good friend, a good player, you know, in group activities, so to speak, those friends will leave you. They will challenge you, or they would put pressure on you to either fix your ways if you want to stay, you know, if you want them to stay in your life, to become more responsible, more adult in your relationships with them. So it might go both ways. Either you also put pressure on people, friends around you, and put walls and put certain requirements or them doing the same to you. And in another way, it can also play that you, for example, you no longer have access to certain networks of friendships or groups because you no longer need them. Maybe you move to another place, maybe you relocate, maybe your friends move away, maybe your friends are very busy because Saturn is the planet of hard work and responsibilities. So maybe they're very busy, so they don't have time for you. Or how it played out for me is like I was super busy with work and responsibility, Saturn, and I didn't have time for friends. There were so many other things, so many other responsibilities happening that just couldn't have time for social life. So in the past 2.5 years, I almost didn't have social life, which I didn't suffer through because, it's kind of a natural process. Sorry, my beach hair here, not exactly the mermaid, but so it's not necessarily that, don't expect that you're gonna feel so isolated. It's quite voluntarily. And often it's because you have other priorities, especially socioeconomic priority, because the 11th house is about working towards socioeconomic goals. And the relationships that stay in your life, or friendships, or new ones that can come, they'll rotate for the next 2.5 years around maybe collaborating for work projects, maybe people that can actually help you fulfill your goals, work-related groups. For example, for me, it was that all the time for the past 2.5 years, the only people I communicated and had social, or let's say on a daily basis, social interaction with were people that are connected to my work, to astrology, people that are connected to people that I developed softwares with, people that I work on certain goal together with. So yes, such relationships are much more supported. Or maybe if you want to start a business with a friend or someone from an environment, Saturn in the 11th house can indicate that can be a very productive time. But otherwise, yes, your relationship will be revised. You'll build more structure around them. Friendships of some sort, business friendships and business contacts are much more favored during that time. You might have all the people around you in your environment, or professionals, or people that are connected to institutions of some sort, people that are like teacher, mentor figures. Your friends can take such roles, but they can be also ones that put pressure on you to make you give the best of yourself to follow your goals in some way, but they won't do it in a way that upsets you too much, because as I said, Saturn is making a good aspect from the 11th house to Pisces. So yes, there will be a little bit of a pressure from such figures, but it will be in a way to make you more mature, to make you, they'll be supportive towards your goals and and your true identity, by helping you achieve certain goals in you. And this is fantastic time for the next 2.5 years to work very hard towards achieving long-term goals. And you might not immediately get the recognition that you want, because 11th house is the house of titles and honors and receiving the fruits of our work. But now while Saturn is there for 2.5 years, maybe towards the end you can receive, when Saturn moves into your 12th house from 2020, you can receive those recognitions and those rewards and awards. But while Saturn is in the 11th house, you work towards them, those goals. Maybe you always wanted to be in the ballerina, and now for the next 2.5 years you have the opportunity to actually make this happen, because you're working very hard. Or maybe you always wanted to have your own business, that's your social, that's your dreams and wishes, is the 11th house. So you will not, by the end of this transit, you will manifest it, but you're working from the beginning very, very hard towards it. Very productive time. Saturn in the 11th house is absolutely one of the most productive times that I've noticed in the life of people, because the nature of Saturn is hard work. The nature of the 11th house is your goals and dreams and socioeconomic goals, and we only achieve them by putting self-discipline and effort and hard work and going towards them consistently. Don't expect that you will achieve them overnight, say in January 2018. No, it's going to take longer than you expect. It's going to take almost 2 years. For example, I started the biggest project I ever worked on, which is like a software that I had to write 700 or 800 unique articles for this software for transits. I started 2.5 years ago, and I was hoping when Saturn entered my 11th house, and I was like, oh, I'll finish it within 6 months, I'll wrap it up. Oh, 2.5 years, 2 years later and 2 months, I'm finally wrapping it up when Saturn is coming out of my 11th house. But it's happening. It's happened. So your long-term goals, your goals and dreams will start manifesting and materializing. But you have to remember it's going to be a slower process. It's going to require a lot of your work. There will be some delays because of Saturn. Maybe it's good because you fulfill that, you make finally that project that you want, that goal that you want will be much more realistic. And by the end of this transit, you'd have achieved it. You'd have the material evidence for it. So don't rush through it. Work consistently, slowly, every day a little bit. This is how you have the biggest success when Saturn is in your 11th house, towards your goals and long-term dreams, to work consistently every day, step by step. Usually finances are not affected. If anything, they can even grow when Saturn is in the 11th house because you are more focused on socio-economic goals. But especially you see strong results in your finances towards the end of that transit. So step by step, every day a little bit. Don't force things. Don't think they're going to happen super fast, but they will happen. You'll find a lot of working relationships, a lot of people, and often a lot of Capricorns can be around because Saturn rules Capricorn, you know. People with strong Capricorn that you can work in some kind of a working environment or on some project of some sort. It's not necessarily that they're Capricorn, but this can happen. What else? Yes, so reality check in your friendships, reality check in your goals. So if you have goals that are unrealistic, when Saturn enters your 11th house, you just be awakened to the reality that this is not achievable in the current socio-economic environment, or you have to restructure it in a way that your goal becomes more realistic, you know. Or you might have to either change it fully or reorganize it in some way that your long-term goals and dreams comply with what is possible. And Saturn allows you to do that. Saturn doesn't allow you to give up easy as well. Yes, you can remove something, but other very powerful, very much more realistic goals will be in your life that make you dedicate a lot of efforts and energy and gradual step by step again. And you have to follow lawful ways. Say you've always wanted to open your own business. Saturn is in your 11th house, well, you're working towards that. And you're starting to see results, but you need to follow all the rules and regulations because Saturn rules and regulations, and there might be like heavy institutions involved, like rules and regulations from institutions that, you know, food and safety, whatever, you know, everything is kind of regulated in regards to your long-term goals, and you have to do it in a lawful way without trickeries. 11th house rules all activities in large groups. So you might be working very hard towards, if you want to be in the public eye in some way, and maybe working with many people, that is good. You know, for your personal life, always Saturn the 11th dries up the social environment a little bit, or just leaves 1 or 2 very close friends, and you feel like you don't need more anymore. But on a professional level, this is fantastic because, again, as I said, you can create very lasting professional commitments and such that help you fulfill long-term goals. And joining groups and organizations with the intention to further your career projects, your career prospects, or your earning prospects, or your business prospects, it's really auspicious. You gradually build those socioeconomic connections. But if it's only for personal goals, often it's not, you know, it's not so, it doesn't happen. But say if you want, I want to be part of this group or of this clique or of that, country club or whatever, because I want to, you know, I want to be in the social class, whatever. If you're doing it like that for certain, you know, for more material socioeconomic goals, you will have gradually access and build those lasting links there. So that's for me So yes, the December, you're wrapping up the 10th house. You're seeing the consequences of certain restructurings that you did in your career, and then you're starting to work for the next 2.5 years, hard but gradually towards streamlining your friendships and your goals and making them realistic and actually fulfilling them by the end of some dream of yours will be fulfilled by the end of this period through your hard work, guys. So thank you so much, and yes, check out the webinar with Robert Phoenix, which we have in the middle of December, the 10th of December, on Saturn in Capricorn. He will give you way more in-depth insight on Saturn in Capricorn, how it will personally impact you. It's 30% off till the 9th of December. And this is an astrologer who is world-renowned, he's world-famous, and he was a working astrologer when Saturn was in Capricorn 28 years ago. So he knows exactly how it will impact people. He's seen it with his clients, while I'm just making conjectures here. I was not alive or knew astrology back then. So do check out that webinar. $29 only, how it will personally affect you, how it will affect the world from someone who has hands-on experience with Saturn in Capricorn. And then we also have Saturn. We also have another webinar, which is 14 hours in the middle of December with the Rumen Kolev, the world most famous astrologer on Babylonian and antique astrology. It's 14 hours. He usually sells this webinar for 2,500 euros, but for Astrolada's viewers, he's offering it limitedly to for $180. It will be a live one, and we'll generate an ancient chart for each one of you, and we'll be looking at the constellations. Say the constellation of, for many Pisces, when they were born, the constellation of the water bearer was rising in their sun, and this makes for some of the most spiritual people, according to ancient astrology, because the water bearer is the bringer of knowledge. So we'll walk through each degree of the 360 degrees of the constellations, and not only the 12 constellations that are on the ecliptic, but the other constellations. For example, when I was born, the constellation of Hydra was exactly behind my moon. This makes me an occultist and astrologer. This is like so basically word by word. When you read your life, it's reflected in the constellations. And this is what we're going to learn, guys. And this is knowledge that is not out there, because we'll be reading directly from a book that is 2,000 years old in ancient Greek. He'll be reading directly from it. It's not translated. He'll be reading from ancient Greeks for each degree, each constellation, what it means for you personally and for your faith. So anyway, thank you so much for being with me. Enjoy Saturn in 10th house. Actually, you'll probably be very grateful that Saturn moves out of Sagittarius and starts finally to support you rather than to just test you. So thank you so much, Pisces, and I'll see you next month.